Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Brian James. I'm the Chief of Police for the Greensboro Police Department, and I wanted to give you some additional information about the incident that happened on this past Friday. At approximately 3:08 p.m. on August 27th, Christopher Moore entered the employee parking lot on foot at the southeast side of the Greensboro Police Department, located at 100 East Police Plaza. After using an accelerant to set a marked patrol car on fire, Moore attacked an officer that was entering the building. Moore struck the officer multiple times in the face and head before placing his arms around the officer's neck. During the struggle, Moore attempted to gain control of the officer's service weapon. Two additional officers heard the attack and quickly located Moore, assaulting the officer. Ultimately, the officers were able to stop the deadly assault. The officer that was attacked was Officer J.M. Chavez, and he is recovering from his injuries. Officer Chavez joined the Greensboro Police Department in 1999. The other officers involved are Corporal A.L. Dellinger, who joined the department in 2009, and Officer R.T. Brooks, who joined the department in 2011. Based on preliminary information, it appears Moore came onto the police property with the intent of starting the fire and attacking police. The danger police face is ever present, and officers have to remain vigilant against these threats. The reality is, we are lucky that it was an officer who was attacked and not one of our non-sworn employees in the parking lot. To that measure, we are looking at ways we can secure our parking lots and buildings to address safety for all of our employees. The investigation into this incident is ongoing, and we will not be releasing any additional information at this time. We thank the community for their support and our employees for their dedication. I would at this time like to also thank the Guilford County Sheriff Office and Sheriff Rogers, who helped us in securing the area around the building on Friday, as well as the North Carolina State Highway Patrol, who also assisted us. So at this time, I would be glad to take a few questions, if you have any.
Chief James,
Yes.
you mentioned that during the assault that officer was hit several times in the face and head. Can you speak to whether anything was being used as a weapon? We're hearing from witnesses that there might have been a fire extinguisher involved.
No, at this point it appears that it was purely a physical assault, and the officer was entering the building and was attacked almost immediately upon encountering Mr. Moore in the parking lot.
Chief James, can you talk a little bit about the 2015 incident that happened with Moore and a GPD officer at that time several years ago?
I do not have all the specific details around that incident. However, I think it was involving a larceny, and an officer was assaulted in that particular case. And to my knowledge, Mr. Moore was convicted of that assault, but I cannot go into great detail about that particular incident from 2015.
How is that officer doing today? We know that they went to the hospital for treatment of their injuries. How serious were those injuries? How are they doing now?
Officer Chavez has been released from the hospital, and he is still recuperating. He will, from all indications, be physically okay and will fully recover. At this point, I cannot speak specifically about his medical status or what specific injuries he sustained.
Can you tell us what's involved in the internal investigation? I know that there's a number of surveillance cameras out in the parking lot. Officers, of course, wear body-worn cameras. What stage are we in the investigation? Have you had a chance to review that video?
So we have looked for any available video. Of course, that video will be shared with the SBI, who is doing the criminal investigation, as well as professional standards. So we are looking for any outdoor surveillance video, as well as any additional body cam video in that. But we're still really in the early stages of doing the investigation.
Chief, do we know how many shots were fired from those officers? And you had said 2 officers fired their weapons. Is that correct?
I didn't say specifically, and I cannot get into details about how many shots have been fired. Again, it's in the early stages, and we are still working with the SBI as well as our professional standards division to determine those details.
Chief James, has anything in the parking lot like this ever happened before? Any incidents at all, whether it be with your folks or just community members or the public out here?
We've never had an incident to this degree happen in one of our parking lots. What I will tell you is that we have had incidents that have happened in our parking lots, not only at this facility, but other facilities that we have in the city. And so, as I stated before, we are certainly going to look at ways that we can better secure our lots and hopefully make this as safe a work environment as possible.
Was your behavioral health team able to be called out to the parking lot while all of this was going on?
This incident happened spontaneously. The subject walked onto the lot with an accelerant, went to a police car, set it on fire, and the officer that was approaching the back of the building, he was assaulted immediately upon encountering him. So this is not a call for service that went in. This individual simply walked onto the lot, took those actions. So no, behavioral health, a call like that was not able to be entered.
Did he appear to be targeting a specific police car, or was this random, you think?
Well, it was a marked patrol car, and there were multiple marked patrol cars that were in the lot. So we can't say that he was targeting a specific patrol car. You know, we can only, perhaps, I hate to say speculate, but that he was just looking for a marked patrol car, and he encountered one, and he decided to set that one on fire.
Chief, you mentioned efforts potentially to secure the parking lot. What might that look like? Would it be maybe putting a fence up or something like that?
So what we did this morning, I have asked my senior command staff to form groups that work at each facility, both police officers as well as civilian employees. The first thing we want to do is we want to look at what security measures that we currently have in place and ensure that those measures are actually working as they should at this point, and then also look at what enhancements we could possibly do at each facility to make it more secure. So at this point, could fencing be involved? It's a possibility, but I cannot say for sure. I really would like a chance to do an assessment and see what that might look like going forward. But we certainly want to take a hard look at security. Again, as I mentioned on Friday, briefly, we have a lot of civilian employees that work in this building, and we're just very fortunate that one of our employees was not hurt seriously, at least from a non-sworn standpoint.
Chief, what might your message be to the community, especially considering this happened, you know, here on GPD property, but also just those that maybe are scared this happened here, or just anybody who, you know, as far as you've mentioned, like this appears to be an assault, so just anything like that as far as targeting police departments or just a message to the community?
I would say that no matter where we are, whether it's out in a shopping area, a residential area, or even at the police department, we have to be aware of our surroundings and just have to understand that certainly anything could happen at any time, and we have to be as safe as we possibly can. And the biggest thing is really just always being aware of your surroundings. And you know, we teach that and preach that out in the community. When we talk about community safety, you really have to be aware of your surroundings no matter where you are. And we certainly, as I said on Friday, you know, we were shaken by it. It's disturbing. You think of this as a safe place. I still would like to think of it as a safe place, but understand that there can still be certain vulnerabilities, and we have to be aware of that and see what we can do to mitigate that.
Chief, you know, you touched on it a little bit, but it's a fine line because you want to make sure the community knows that you guys are there for them, to serve them, but you also have to be vigilant because you never know what could happen from one moment to the next.
You certainly have to remain vigilant, and you know, and as we talk about security around our facilities, we still want the facilities to be a welcoming place to our community, because oftentimes, even the room that we stand in, we have community meetings right here in this building. And you know, as we want to be safe, we don't want our buildings to look like a place that are not welcoming. So we certainly want to make sure that we balance that when we look at additional security measures that we may take going forward.
Any threats leading up to this, the day of, or anything?
I'll take one more. What'd you say?
Any threats that were made, or was this person on your radar? Of, you know, have you been spotted around the building, or any indication of what led up to this?
We had no indication that Mr. Moore would show up on Friday. We had no information on him whatsoever that he might be any kind of a threat to the public or to anyone at the police department. So that's all I have for right now. I really appreciate you all covering it, and have a great day. Thank you.